Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I'm known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and so stoked to be joined by...
I'm Cecil Laird. Welcome to the horror show.
Hell yeah. And if it please you, join us here for a bit of palaver on a little brief return for Hail to Stephen King, because, it's been a little few and far between with his stuff, I would say, whereas when that show first started, I mean, there was King stuff coming out every minute, practically, and now it's kind of simmered down, and so we're talking about the film that was originally supposed to come out 2 years ago in this new theatrical version of Salem's Lot that didn't end up getting to go theatrical and ended up going Max instead. And they actually, announced this as I was just looking at way back in 2019 when the King of Songs was like in full-blown mode of just, zooming and going and everything. And things simmered down as of this point, like I said. And so I have a lot of thoughts about this because, this is in my top 5 for King books. And yet this thing is over 400 pages long. And if you're trying to get around the 2-hour runtime, whereas the previous 2 adaptations were 3 hours each, you're going to have to, trim some fat and, kind of streamline it a little bit. So I'm very curious to hear how you felt about this one before I divulge any of my thoughts. So
yeah, because basically I don't have any of the baggage associated with having read the novel and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I've only seen the other movie versions once. Like I saw the original. I think I saw the first miniseries, and then I definitely saw the next the Rob Lowe miniseries as well. So I've seen
James
everything but just
Cromwell.
once, and I didn't remember it at all because I watched them back when they came out. So it's been a long time, and I gotta be honest, I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. It was I love the eye effect so much in all the vampires. I thought it looked cool every single time. I thought this rendition of Barlow was really awesome looking. I thought he was really fucking cool. And outside of a couple of small silly things here and there, I actually just really had a good time with it. I'm glad that they went with just more of like a vampire thriller, but I don't know what diving further into the details would have brought to the movie. Maybe a lot more, and you'll be able to speak to that. But as someone that doesn't have that familiarity, I had a really good time with this, and I thought the designs were cool. I thought the scenes, there was a lot of really cool scenes, so a lot of really cool ideas that I'm sure came from the book that were just played out. And so I was like, nice. I dug it. I had a really great time with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was definitely a mixed bag for me. I mean, the book itself, the original, is over 400 pages long, and so I knew that with trying to get it to this runtime, they were going to streamline some things, and yet for me, it just felt like it almost like Cliff Notes, and I felt like a lot of the characters were really underdeveloped, and I knew that they were going to either just omit them entirely or make them just very much like William Sadler's character, the constable, for instance. Very little for him to do. He's only in a couple scenes. Even Straker, the 4 scenes maybe. Father Callahan, I didn't really feel like he had much to do. And yet, I felt like the film looked great. Gary Dauberman and his DP did a great job, especially with some of the colors when the first of the Glick boys is taken early in the film. It was like at sunset, that scene looked really rad.
That was so cool. The silhouetted side scroll.
Yeah,
so fucking
really cool. Yeah, and even the way a lot of the shots were framed up, like when you get this overhead of this coffin, when somebody is getting exhumed. I mean, there was a lot of visual cues that I thought were pretty dope. And unlike the 2004 version, where they changed things significantly, especially with certain character motivations like Father Callahan, this one didn't really alter too much. Now, it sped everything up. And that was still going to be one of my main gripes because I felt like, okay, we have this main beat we need to get to, this main beat. They recreated a lot of the Tobe Hooper stuff, including the look for Barlow, which I thought was pretty rad. I mean, it was very similar to how it was in the 79 Tobe Hooper film. And I guess when they used Rutger Hauer in the 2004 one with Rob Lowe, it was them trying to do something completely different, much more like human-looking Barlow instead. So I don't know, man, but I guess it just felt a little matte and disappointing. It wasn't infuriating like the 2004 one was, and it wasn't like really top notch like I thought the Tobe Hooper one was. This was kind of more in the middle. They didn't exploit the R rating quite as much as I was hoping they would. In the third act, they kind of did with some of the vampire kills and everything. So it's a mixed bag. I can't say that I hated it, but I was not over the moon for it. It just rushed through so much. I felt like, So
Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So let's get into it a little bit deeper. Do you want to just cover the story real briefly
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, and it's not really that complex of a story in any of the adaptations. Now, in the book itself, and this will hopefully be one of the last times I mention it, the book is one of those first times that King went into all of the secrets of the town and the intertwinements of all of these supporting characters, and I guess that works a lot better in a miniseries than it does in a 2-hour movie. So I kind of expected that they were going to not give as much backstory about the town. They give some of it in the newspaper clippings in the intro, but aside from that, less backstory, and that's what books are for. If you really want to get like the director's cut or whatever, get some more intriguing information. But you've got a character named Ben Mears, played by Lewis Pullman, son of the president from ID4, Bill Pullman, various other great roles. But Lewis Pullman, he returns to the town where he spent some of his youth and where it really left an impression on him, because there's this Marston house that he had. I don't even really think in this one they go into much about his history with this spooky haunted house like they did in the book and in the previous 2 miniseries. But he returns to Jerusalem's Lot, this town where he spent some of his youth, to get some inspiration, start writing his new book, meets a girl named Susan, reconnects with some of the locals, most notably I want to say his name is Matthew Burke, played by Bill Camp, who was one of the standouts in this movie for me. I thought Bill Camp was great. We'll get into that with the acting. But the new people who have bought the Marston house, Straker and Barlow, these mysterious people from overseas in Europe, they bought the home. They're opening an antique store, and when they arrive, that's when spooky shit starts going down. Some fanging afoot, and the town slowly starts to get turned, a couple people at a time, and it's kind of a slow, low key until it's not in the third act, when it's pretty evident to our little ragtag team that the town has been taken over, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and so I enjoyed how the story played out, and I liked that it got a lot. Like, it involved a lot more people than I thought it was going to, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. What a neat idea. And like, it's like, wow, ghost town situation. So I enjoyed seeing how it all played out. I was a little disappointed with how the vampires die, but I guess we can talk about that when we get to effects. But otherwise, the way the story played out, I was entertained the whole way. Quite honestly, I never got bored. I never got tired of it. I wouldn't have minded watching another 10-15 minutes of things the way they were progressing. So I thought I really dug it.
Yeah, and that's where Gary Dauberman wrote and directed this, and he did screenplays for it and It Chapter 2, and he's a buddy of James Wan's. He's worked on some of the Annabelle movies and Conjuring, things like that. So this is one where just like you were saying, man, I honestly felt like an extra 15, 20, maybe even closer to 30 minutes would have helped, because I did feel like the pacing was just speeding through so many really important beats and just trying to get to vampires. And I didn't even really feel like we got to know a lot of the characters as well as I would have hoped. Like Father Callahan, one of my favorite King characters, like I felt like he had pretty much nothing to do. Even when he did get involved, there was still so little for him to do. But it's a story that it's in my King top 5 for a reason, that even when we get the Reader's Digest version or whatever, it's still enjoyable enough for me. And I liked how they changed where the big climactic stuff happens at the end. It's at a different location than we have in the original book, and I thought it worked. I thought it was cool, a little nod to cinema in general, so to speak. So I thought that was fun. I didn't really buy the love story too much between Susan and
it felt
Ben
a little
Mears.
hurried.
Yeah, and even beyond that, it just didn't. We know what happens without spoiling stuff, So I don't know, man, but I did really like how they wrote the Bill Camp teacher character. I thought he was solid.
Yeah, I liked him the most, actually. I thought he was the most entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into acting, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, my 2 favorites were Bill Camp as Burke, the teacher, who really he's kind of the one explaining along the way, searching into the lore about vampires and stuff. I mean, and I also really liked the kid who was our new Mark Petrie.
Mark, yeah.
I thought he was great in this, dude. And you know, his chemistry is supposed to be like full tilt, really great with Ben, but I didn't feel it quite as much as I did.
No, that
with,
felt a little hurried as well.
Yeah. But him and Burke, especially in the third act where they go to investigate something, just the two of them, I thought they played off each other really well. So those two were, in my estimation, the ones who did the best. I wanted more Will Sadler as the constable, but you know, once again, we didn't get too much from him. And Lewis Pullman was fine, but I don't know. He didn't get as emotional as I was expecting, even in some of those really dire moments where the stakes are just getting higher and higher. He remained pretty even keeled. I felt like he was chewing gum the whole time too.
Yeah,
he was doing these weird facial movements.
He kind of was the weakest in the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I was expecting a lot from him in the lead role, but yeah. So, but acting wasn't really bad from anybody, except for maybe Straker. I didn't really like the actor who portrayed him, but you know,
he didn't have a ton to do, so yeah,
like four scenes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about the filmmaking, because that's something I'm excited to discuss. I think that it was above average cinematography and production design. I feel like they nailed the look of the town. They absolutely, like, anytime a King movie is made, they always nail the feel of like those little town in Maine vibes, and it's just wonderful every single time we get it, and it's done well. And I felt like it was done well here. And the look of the town, the look of the houses were fucking cool, especially Barlow's lair. And that, again, there's one shot that's gorgeous that has the house on the hill and the 4 or 5 people like lined up, ready to go in. It felt very you know, when the kids are about to go in and confront at Neibold House, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so, and then like we kind of talked about earlier, there was a lot of really cool choices cinematography wise.
Yep.
I loved the shot that started with playing cards landing on the ceiling, and I'm like, what the? And then it turns, and then Mark is upside down, hanging upside down when the room is righted. So I was like, that was cool. I liked how they did that. I loved how they utilized cinematography to tell the story and to make a scare when I can't remember which character it was. It might have been our lead, when he goes out of the church and he like looks down the foggy street and nothing's there, and then he looks back at Alfre Woodard, and then when he looks back, all of the vampires are there on the roofs, and
I think that's in the trailer.
But it's still so fucking cool.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
And by the way, Alfre Woodard, we didn't mention in the acting, she's awesome. Like, and she still looks great. Like, she's holding up really well. Good for her. So yeah, it's I really dug the cinematography, the filmmaking of the movie. I thought was again above average.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I can't really fault Gary Dauberman in the couple things he's directed as a director. It's really his writing more so than anything that I've always had, you know, kind of taken issue with and stuff. But I mean, even early on, there's another scene I thought was very well lit and ominous when a certain character is being sacrificed early on. And the room filled with all the candles and everything. It
Looking
just had
through
a very
the sack and everything.
Gothic Baroque eeriness and stuff. And so yeah, I mean, it was pretty accomplished from a visual standpoint. That's one thing I definitely can't really knock much of anything about.
The sound design and the score, I don't again, sometimes the score sticks out to me, sometimes it doesn't. This time it didn't really stick out to me particularly.
Not so much
sound
for
design
me
was
either.
good though. I liked the sound design. I liked you know, voices coming from different places. Oh, by the way, there was one other thing regarding the acting I wanted to mention. It's funny seeing it because the kid who was Mark's friend, what's his name?
Oh, the Click Boys?
No, the friend that
his younger brother gets taken, and then later on he gets taken too. Yeah, I recognized the older brother, Danny Click, and I couldn't figure out what the hell I'd seen him in.
He's the kid in The Boys. He's
he's
Homelander's son, but he's older
from.
in The Boys than he is in this. That's what's fucking funny about it.
Well, yeah, because they filmed this like 3 years ago. You know? So,
but yeah, that's that. I was like, oh, it's fucking Homelander's son, but he's
I
he's younger than in the show. Yeah. So I thought that was funny when I was like, damn, okay, that does place this right around 2020 when they filmed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, man. And so score didn't really. There's a few kinks like the original Salem slot, the CBS miniseries from '79 does have a pretty dope score. This one, I'm gonna much more so remember the song they used in the trailer. It's at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie with Sundown or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also get some hurdy-gurdy man action about halfway through, you know, because that's a Donovan song I've always loved. John Bonham on the drums with that.
I've always liked it too.
So, yeah, man, I mean, it did really, I was kind of surprised when I heard that this was a period piece, you know, that they were doing it in 75.
I liked it, though.
Actually, I did too. It was, you know, I mean, I guess when the 79 one came out, it was the mid to late 70s, so it captured that vibe. But this one definitely did a pretty good job, you know, whether it was cars or, you know, just the homes and everything else. So I thought that was, you know, and the music helped with that too, especially because going with something a little more obscure like that Sundown song.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Trying
to think of anything else. I mean, you know, look at the vampires. You know, you said you liked the red glow of the eyes that they all were kind of embodying.
It was red, white, yellow. I mean, Barlow's were yellow, but mostly it was white.
Yeah, because Barlow's were yellow in the original too. Now that I think about it. So,
but yeah, all the other vampires with the white glow, and I actually love the effect. Oh, we didn't talk about the effects yet, but I love the effect when a vampire would hypnotize someone and their eyes would slowly glaze over white. I was like, that was a cool effect. I mean, over the years, they've really nailed how to be able to do that effect and make it look real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the whole glamour aspect.
But that was such a cool way to show it. You know, usually it's just, you know, like a zoned out look, but they really did that well digitally. I thought it really meshed the times we saw it. So
yeah, and I mean, even though I felt like they were going kind of tame with it in the first two acts, like by the time we get to the third act and we actually have some staking going on and, you know, things of that nature, I thought that it was all that I got the blood that I was waiting on. And even when Danny Glick is like, I'm so thirsty, and, you know, he dies with the blood just all over him, grabbing the bag of it when he was in the hospital. Like, that was a cool scene too.
Now I do have a question. And I won't spoil things, but at one point, a vampire was getting stabbed in the face with something, and didn't they say no blood was coming out? I thought they said no blood.
I do remember. I'm trying to remember which character this happened to.
It's the woman under the sheet.
Oh yeah.
And like she was getting stabbed in the face, and they were like no blood, and I was like, oh, that's because, you know, the vampires drink it. They don't have it themselves really because they're dead. But then, whenever they get staked, there's like blood. And I was like, wait, so which is it? Maybe I just misheard when she was getting stabbed in the face, that's what they were saying, but I don't know, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's not something that I remember from the book or from either of the previous miniseries adaptations either, but I do remember the scene that you're talking about, obviously, and boy, did they give some exposition, you know, kind of, you know, giving a reason why. I don't remember it. So,
well, I mean, that's what I made. That was the headcanon for me, is that, you know, they're vampires. They're drained of blood anyway. That's why they continuously try and drink it, kind of thing. But, you know, again, that could just be something I made up. But yeah, I mean, effects wise, the thing I wanted to mention, talking about the staking, I didn't like that there was no particular effect when they got staked outside of the eyes dimming. I mean, I like that was a thing, but there's no turning to ash. There's no bursting into, you know, blood bursts, you know, like some movies have done. And like they get stabbed through the heart and the glimmer leaves their eyes and that's it. And I'm like, it's a little lackluster after years and years of seeing them amp that effect up and up and up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still remember the first time I was watching Buffy, you know, the TV series, and like the whole. So, yeah. But it is in line with how King describes it in the book. There's no like big grandiose sort of, you know, finish of their bodies, you know, instant decomposition or, you know, like self-implosion or whatever. So I guess it was remaining faithful, but it is a little anticlimactic. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it doesn't play as cool on screen, but all right. I mean, if it's book accurate, it's book accurate. You know what I mean? Yeah. But otherwise, the effects, I thought all the makeup effects were really neat when we got them, and there was some digital effects at times, but I was really like what happens at the end, as far as, you know, an open mouth, and
oh, that was a cool shot.
I love that. I thought that was so neat. Yeah, that was a fun effect.
That was a pretty money shot.
Yeah.
I will give it that.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think this movie had a lot of positives for me.
Yeah.
I can understand people like yourself that are attached to the original material. It makes it tough, but as someone that's not, there was a lot to like for me. So
yeah, and there was a decent amount that I liked as well. It just felt a little not even so much underdeveloped, just so streamlined, you know. And since it's material that really takes its time, as it did in both of the previous miniseries too, you know, that's my main gripe, I guess, because I thought the acting was good. I thought, you know, set design, cinematography. I mean, it felt like a theatrical movie. It felt like it was made with the intention, and it's going to be in cinemas over in the UK. So the fact that they decided not to go that route here in, you know, North America and like Canada and here in the US is a little bit of a head scratcher, but, you know, it is what it is. So,
would you recommend it to people? I would.
It would
easily, especially if you have Max already.
If you're not super familiar with the source material, I would say yes. I would definitely give it a recommend. If you're a little more beholden to it like me, I think it's going to be tough not to nitpick things. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Well, yeah, I think that's good for me. I just want to say before Fuego wraps us up here, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Oh yeah, and until the Wheel of Ka comes back around, everybody, you know, hasta luego, gracias. Hope we've been well met, and that we share more of this palaver sooner rather than later. And until then, read Stephen King, watch Stephen King, whatever it may be, and yeah, remember,
stay scared.